Today, it's the heavyweights of motorsports, monster trucks. We'll take a look at this megabuck sport, its history, and its future. Join us for a look at America's latest love affair with trucks. Coming up next here on the Superchargers. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Superchargers. I'm Gabriel. Today, we're going to take a nostalgic look at monster trucks. Now, you may recall it was back in 1984 when we brought you the very first side-by-side monster truck race on national television. Now, we're in St. Louis today where it all began, where one man built the very first professional monster truck. His name is Bob Chandler, and we'll talk to him in just a little while. But first, we're going to go back, all the way back to the inception of the four-wheel drive vehicles. During World War II, four-wheel drive vehicles came into play with great importance. There were jeeps, troop-carrying trucks, ambulances, and a variety of armored vehicles. On the home front, horsepower was being contested at state and county fairs, with real horses pulling sacks of feed. As the war ended and new technology developed, the horses were replaced by tractors and eventually four-wheel drive pulling trucks. The trucks have continued their growth and are now one of the most popular forms of pulling vehicles. Well, there's a little history lesson on truck and tractor pulling, which eventually led to monster trucks, which leads us here to St. Louis to meet the man who built the very first monster truck, and that's Bob Chandler. He did it in 1973. That was a while back. What gave you the idea to put big wheels on a little bitty truck?
Jan started out as a promotional tool for my shop. I'd put all the accessories I could from the shop. I'd put bigger tires and bigger wheels. I tried to stay ahead of anybody else with a four-wheel drive truck. It was advertising for my shop more than anything else.
Now let me ask you this. The name Bigfoot is the most famous name in monster trucks today and probably always will be. Where'd you come up with the name?
I used to go out and race every weekend with my truck, and I'd come back with something broke every weekend, and my general manager, Ron Magruder, started calling me Bigfoot because I couldn't keep my foot out of the throttle, and we stuck it on the truck. It sounded good.
They should have called you Leadfoot.
Leadfoot would be a better answer, better one, yes.
Now, you started off with the one truck back in 1973, and you worked on it, and then came Bigfoot number 2. When did that happen?
Bigfoot 2, I believe, was 1979, right.
Okay, now we're talking about a tremendous growth. One truck, then 2 trucks. Today, there are 10 Bigfoots.
That's right. We've got 10 vehicles, I call them. We have one that's a track. We have an Aerostar van, so they're not all Bigfoot trucks anymore. They're Bigfoot vehicles, right?
Probably the one that fascinated me most was Bigfoot 4 with the huge, gigantic tires. Tell us a little bit about that truck.
That was the 10-foot tall tires you're referring to, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, we've had it on a couple of the trucks. Bigfoot 5 is the one that's running them now all the time. We had to change a lot of things on that vehicle. We put bigger axles than the other trucks, a big set of planetary gears, and it's got a double reduction on it, a chain drive. That's a 3-to-1. Its final drive is about 360-to-1.
Let's jump forward now to 1984. This is when you and I first met. In 1984, I saw these monster trucks and I said, boy, that'd be terrific if they could race those side by side. Well, we found a couple of promoters. Remember Bob George, of course, the late Bob George, and Tony Vaccaro and Ed Thayer. And we said, gentlemen, we'd like to race them side by side in the Louisiana Superdome. And that's exactly what happened. And Bob Chandler brought down to the Louisiana Superdome 2 trucks, one for racing and one for show.
Right, that was the Bigfoot 4, I think was the truck we raced. And we brought the shuttle, I believe, is what we filmed some of the event in the shuttle. But Jim Kramer raced against Awesome Kong for the finals, and it was a dynamite. It really, I think it turned our whole industry around. Instead of just exhibition, we started racing and made it a motorsport.
What we did is we contacted the 8 best monster trucks of the time and invited them down to race, and it was really exciting. Here's the finals. Let's take a look together. Yeah. This is the first event. It took place in the Louisiana Superdome.
And this is Jim Kramer driving Bigfoot 4. It's one of our first side-by-side races.
In the other lane was that orange truck, that's Awesome Kong 2, driven by Jeff Dane. Jeff was always a great competitor, still is for that matter. Now, they were pretty equal on that night.
Yeah, they both run all their rounds, and now they're hooked up to a 50,000-pound sled. That's how they start their event.
And remember, there were 8 trucks that started. It came down to these 2, and here they are dragging the sled.
Yeah, and it was real close. They both came down in the end almost together here. Now they got unhooked. Now this is a dangerous part of this event. They end up eliminating this sled pulling on our races today.
Now here's Jeff Dane. He looks a little bit ahead of Bigfoot.
He made a better corner here, and Jim had to make an outside corner, so he has to do some catch-up.
Well, let's see what happens now. As they come to the cars, Bigfoot looks a little bit stronger.
Yeah, Jim hit the cars a lot faster. He had a better approach to him, and I think he's going to have it here.
Through the mud they went. Now, this took place back in 1985.
Definitely, and it was very exciting. I was on the sideline jumping up and down. The crowd was jumping up and down. We knew it was a good piece, something that we should do from now on as a side-by-side competition.
Of course, today they run a lot faster.
Definitely.
Well, Bob Chandler, for you, that must have been very exciting that your truck won that very first national championship runoff.
Yeah, that really made it exciting that we won. It was a good race.
Now, the vehicle you see over my left shoulder here happens to be the very first Bigfoot. This is the original. Tell us a little bit about it.
This is Bigfoot 1. It's a 1974 Ford. This is what started on my end of it. I had a four-wheel drive shop, and this is the vehicle I put all the accessories on. I started putting the bigger and bigger tires on. I've got 10, 15 years of work in this truck. There's not a piece of original body work left on it. It's all been replaced at least once.
I think one thing that a lot of our viewers would like to know is how much these trucks weigh.
Generally, they're about 15,000 pounds.
That's a lot of weight.
It's a lot of weight. Well, a tire and wheel combination is 1,000 each, so there's 4,000 just in tires.
What about suspension? What carries all that weight?
Well, we normally run a 5-ton military axle housing and then a planetary, and that axle housing and a planetary combination is about 2,000 pounds. So you got 4,000 pounds just in tires, you got 4,000 pounds in wheels, so there's 8,000 pounds of it is unsprung weight.
Now today, of course, Bigfoot is solid show business, all show business. As a matter of fact, I think the first movie you were in was with Jerry Reed, Take This Job and Shove It.
Take This Job and Shove It, it was Robert Hayes. So.
You had subsequent movies since then?
Yes, we've done 5 movies altogether. A couple of them for Police Academy 2 and 6. We've done Cannonball. We just finished one called Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze and Sam Elliott, which is really a good movie.
So monster trucks are definitely in show business. Now, Bigfoot isn't the only one in show business. When we did a program back about 4 years ago, we asked another truck to do a little theatrics for us, and that was Awesome Kong with Jeff Dane. Here's what he did for us. It was a typical movie chase scene. Good guy versus bad guy. The bad guy, who had just robbed a gas station, ran to hide out in his mobile home. The good guy, who had witnessed the crime and taken up pursuit, was Jeff Dane. He just happened to be driving his monster truck, Awesome Kong 2. After being shot at by the bad guy, Jeff decided to take no chances. He put Awesome Kong into first gear and went full bore after the criminal. Needless to say, the bad guy gave up, exiting out the back door. No, Jeff Dane was not insane to do that stunt. He was pretty well prepared.
He's a daring young man.
Well, indeed he is. Now, back in the 1970s, early 80s, you would find only about 50 trucks in the whole United States. Today that's changed.
Yeah, today there's probably close to 500 monster trucks.
That's a lot of monster trucks. Now, a couple of them come from St. Louis in addition to Bigfoot, and one of them is an old friend of yours.
Jack Woman, yes. He built a truck called Taurus, and Jack Woman has one specialty.
Watch this.
His specialty is running over buses. Jack is really good at this. He's done done it many times, and he knows how to prepare the bus beforehand. And you can see here where the bus almost rolls, and I've asked him about that. He says that he knows how to drive out of it if the bus were to roll. I hope he never has that happen, but he has a good truck here, and he's a brave guy to even do this.
Now, does horsepower play any role in this, or is it just strictly steering?
Now, I'm sure horsepower has a lot to do with it, especially when you're climbing on this bus. It's a very steep angle.
Now, he's been doing this for quite some time.
Yeah, I've seen him do it probably about 5 different times.
And of course, I can see you smashing out the windshields here, but again, he pulls it off. Very successful.
Definitely, he's good.
What you're looking at right now is the world's largest pickup truck. And Bob Chandler, I think the question anyone would want to ask is, where'd you get the tires and how long does it take to put them on?
These tires came from an Alaska Tundra vehicle. I believe it was on some type of a trailer in Alaska in the Second World War, I think. I bought them from a junkyard in Seattle. I bought 8 of these tires. It takes a fork truck and 3 guys about a half a day to put them on the truck. They're 10 foot tall, they're 2,700 pounds, and they're monsters.
Well, indeed they are. But if this is a monster pickup truck, I have even a larger truck that we found in Canada. And here to tell you about it is Flora McIntyre.
Well, Jen, the biggest truck in the whole world is listed right here in the Guinness Book of World Records. And it's parked just a few feet from where I'm standing here in Sparwood, British Columbia. This is the Terex Titan Hauler, and it's the king of all the working monster trucks. Where Bigfoot is great at crushing cars, this bruiser can move mountains. As you can see, everything about it is gigantic. The Terex is as big as a house, just over 66 feet long and over 25 feet wide. From the top of the cab guard to the ground measures 22 feet. The tires alone stand 12 feet high and only last about 6 months. The Terex Titan never stops. It's in operation 24 hours a day, and to fuel up takes 960 gallons of diesel fuel. This incredible truck was built 11 years ago and designed to be the ultimate earth mover for the strip mining industry. Terex is the mainstay in a massive fleet of 68 monster trucks. As an elder statesman, should any of the Terex Titan's major parts fail, say a drive shaft or any other serious internal damage ever occur, the Titan would be retired forever. The cost of a new engine would be well over $800,000, making it too costly to replace. When ready to unload, the dump bed is extended full up. The height of the Terex increases to 56 feet, and that's higher than a 5-story building. Neither frequent snowstorms nor cold weather have ever stopped the Titan from continuing its daily chores in these rough, rocky mountains. It stands alone in size and strength. From Sparwood, British Columbia, I'm Flora McIntyre.
Well, there you have it, the largest truck in the entire world, the Terex Titan. When we return here on the Superchargers, Bob Chandler is going to take us into his workshop, and we're going to take a closer look at these monster trucks. We're back on the Superchargers. I'm Jan Gabriel, today joined by Bob Chandler. We're just outside of St. Louis, Missouri, in Hazelwood, Missouri, and that's the home of Bigfoot, king of the monster trucks. That sound familiar to you?
Yes, it does.
These trucks now, not so much now because they are getting a little bit heavier, but in the early days, these trucks would actually float, would they not?
The earlier trucks without planetaries would float, that's right.
Now, when you say planetaries, explain that to our audience.
Well, a planetary is the hub they put on it and replaces, you have a 5-ton center section which gives you as much as a 10-to-1 final drive. The planetary gives you a lower gear ratio at the hub, which relieves all the strain on these big trucks.
But they weren't digging along at the bottom of a river or lake. They were actually floating.
Oh, it will float, definitely. The old trucks would float with probably about a third of the tire out of the water.
Well, if you're not a believer, watch this. Now, here's the start of the race. David Spiker had 3 trucks in the water. This is at Cypress Gardens, and these trucks do float.
They do float. The lighter trucks, they've got to be somewhere around 12,000 pounds. You get up to the newer trucks that are 14, 15,000, then it's questionable. There's a couple of them have rolled over.
And of course the secret here is the fact of the volume of the amount of air inside those tires.
That's correct. The pressure is only somewhere between 8 and 10, 12 pounds, but the volume of the tire is 6 foot tall and 4 foot wide, so there's a lot of volume. That what makes the truck buoyant.
Bob, it appears that these big wheels act sort of like paddle wheels.
They do. The big tread on these tires pull the truck forward. Not very fast. It's probably only about a 3 knots in the water.
So here's your winner, Mike Spiker in the All-American. So it's true, trucks do float. However, don't expect all trucks to float on water. One of the reasons that Bigfoot is always in the forefront is because Bob Chandler is an innovator. He's always at the computer dreaming up new ideas, and this is his latest secret weapon. Don't tell anybody about it, but he'll tell us about it.
Jan, this vehicle is probably going to be 6,000 pounds lighter than my other race trucks. It'll have 20 inches of suspension travel rather than the 6 to 8 like the other trucks run. The whole idea is to keep the tires on the ground or on the vehicles or on the obstacles. The more they're on the obstacle, the faster the truck's going to be, and hopefully it'll win more races.
So in side-by-side racing, instead of jumping way over the cars, it'll kind of glide across the top of them.
That's the idea if it works.
All right. Another innovator is Everett Jasmer. He's the driver and the builder of USA 1. Claude Akins, the radio and TV star, talked to him recently.
Now, you want to talk about something famous, you want to talk about something original. We are standing in front of a famous original, USA #1. And the creator of this original is kind of original himself, Everett Jasmer from Spring Lake Park, Minnesota. How did this all come about?
Well, it all started a few years ago when a bunch of us guys with four-wheel drive trucks decided to get a little crazy with them, build them bigger and bigger and bigger, and pretty soon the public wanted to see them, and so now we're in showbiz.
Now, you have nothing to go to as far as plans or designs. Where do you get the parts for these, the axle adjustments and all that stuff?
Everything about them is custom built. Each individual owner has built them himself. We take big heavy-duty military parts and other components, and a lot of steel, and fabricate everything ourselves, take the heavy components, modify them to fit. A lot of stuff is custom built from scratch.
It'd be a little tough to change tires on the freeway, wouldn't it?
It would be real tough.
Now, like race cars and things like that all have sponsors or people that help out. Do you guys have people that contribute to you for the promotion of this?
Well, up until very recently, there's been very little other than product sponsorship. different manufacturers of the product we use giving us like shock absorbers and things like that. This year now we've seen a little bit of a change in the industry. It's becoming a lot more professional, and we've got people like True Value to thank for their backing in everything we do, and I think we're going to see more and more of it as time goes on.
All right, well, we want to wish you a lot of luck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Everett.
Thanks, Claude Akins. You know, monster truck racing has always been a very safe sport. As a matter of fact, one of the safest of all motorsports. But every once in a while, a problem does arise. And what you're looking at right here is a door that was part of a rollover. Bob, tell us a little bit about that and the reconstruction of this vehicle behind us.
Okay, this is Bigfoot 6. Kenny was driving a few weeks back in Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium, involved in a race, and he tried to take a corner a little bit too fast. He was handling the corner fine until his inner tire caught a bale of hay, and it pitched him over. What you're seeing is Bigfoot 6 is going to get a new body. It'll probably be done in about a week.
Now, what's interesting is there have been very few rollovers of monster trucks, but the first one took place, about 4 years ago. And unfortunately, the person who rolled it over happened to be a woman. Now, this is Fred Schaefer's truck, but Fred wasn't doing the driving.
Now, it was a gal driving in this case, and she probably hit a little too hard and ended up standing back on her wheelie bars.
So, in other words, a little bit too much power when she hit the cars?
That's probably what happened, yes.
All right, well, she was suspended in the air there for quite some time and must have given her quite a thrill.
Oh, it had to be neat looking up at the sky like that. She didn't have no idea what was going to happen.
Yeah, I'll bet she thought it was neat. Well, let's find out what she had to say.
I'm told this is the first time anybody's rolled a monster truck. How did you do that?
The wheelie bars broke. I don't know if you noticed on the back. They broke, both of them, and one broke before the other did, and it made it come down sideways.
What did you feel like sitting straight up in the air and all of a sudden realizing you're not going to make it?
I figured I'd be scared to death, but I just pulled away from the door and pulled away from the windshield. It wasn't that bad. It happened in slow motion, so.
What you're looking at right now is the latest innovation in monster vehicles. This is a monster tank, and it is truly a high-tech innovation. Bob Chandler, tell us a little bit about this vehicle. First of all, I know that it was not the very first tank to enter competition.
No, the first tank vehicle was a M4, I think it was a World War I tank, and it was called Virginia Beach Beast, and it was a Chevrolet Blazer body on it.
That was quite a vehicle. I can remember it would shred the cars, if I remember correctly.
Right. It was a good competitor. It put a good show on. In fact, he still runs it. It's still a good vehicle. We've raced him several times, and it puts a good race on it.
But he's a little heavy.
He is heavy, and the vehicle has no suspension, which is one of the negative points of it.
Tell us about this tank.
Okay, this one is an M84. It's a later version of it's a armored personnel carrier is actually what it was originally. It's probably about 24,000 pounds, but it has torsion suspension, so it's a very good vehicle, very good tank, let's call it, for racing.
In the United States Hot Rod Association competition, you're running this vehicle against other tanks and against monster trucks.
Well, what they normally do with us is they'll race maybe 4 track vehicles or tanks, and then they'll race 4 or 5 monster trucks, and they come up with one winner. And then the 2 winners of both these classes race each other. And it's been a pretty 50-50 type of race. The monster truck will win sometimes, the tank will win sometimes.
How's the reception been with the race fans?
The crowd seems to love it, because this thing here, where the monster trucks bounce over the top of the vehicles, this will go right through them and cut them.
Well, this is one of the best looking vehicles I've seen in a long, long time. Well constructed and truly a nice piece. You're to be congratulated on it.
Thank you, Jan.
All right, we're going to go away, but when we come back, we've got a lot more for you. Right now, you're going to take a look at one of the nastiest truck competitions you have ever seen. We're back on the Superchargers. I'm Jan Gabriel. Today we're talking about monster truck competition. Now, monster truck competition, for the most part, is sanctioned by the United States Hot Rod Association. Its parent company is SRO Pace. Recently, its president, Charlie Mancuso, was kind enough to tell us the direction in which the sport is headed.
Thanks, Jan. Monster trucks have become an integral part of our truck and tractor pull series, mud racing competition, and other motorsports presentations. Since their inception at the turn of this decade, they have literally become the craze of the 80s, capturing the imagination of the American public. These colorful and certainly powerful vehicles attract attention wherever they appear. In our case, attracting in excess of 6 million spectators at our arena and stadium events over the past 2 years. There is absolutely no question that monster truck racing and other forms of monster truck competitions is the fastest growing motorsport in history. We at the United States Hot Rod Association are very pleased and proud to have presented over 200 events this past year. We are committed to continually give our motorsports fans exactly what they want to see, with hot competitive action and spectacular new shows.
Well, that's about all the time we have here on the Superchargers today. Bob Chandler, I want to take this opportunity to thank you for inviting us down here. It's always a lot of fun, and of course you always learn something when I talk to you about monster trucks.
I want to thank you for coming down here, Jan, and I want to also thank our fans for watching our performances.
I'm Jan Gabriel. Hope you'll join us again next time here on the Superchargers.